fish steak. And so I put that on the grill. But
Oh,
that was like, yeah, it was so minuscule. So I didn't do much, just trying to relax and recuperate, give myself the permission to just kind of chill.
mm-hmm.
So that's what I did. It was and I guess maybe I needed the rest.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm
I put that on the grill. Put that.
Oh,
Yeah. So anyway, that was all I was up to. So I feel, I got up this morning at my 4:30 and I worked out and
mhm.
I wanted to, there was a skunk that was hanging around out in my front yard this morning because I really wanted to do sometimes I'll run the length of the driveway.
Okay.
And the funny thing about me is I went out there and paced it. And so if I go up and back 20 times, it's a mile.
Okay.
And yeah, because at 4 something in the morning, I don't want to be on the street walking with
Right,
a
right.
dog or no dog. I just don't want to be out there. So
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, it was good. It's good, good, good. Yeah.
Nice. I
Yeah.
didn't work out today. I don't know. I did a lot of notes last night, so I just kind of woke up sleepy, but
Uh-huh.
I woke up sleepy, but I slept. So it was kind of. Hmm.
Mm, yeah, never know. Sometimes it's like that. It's all good. So, so today I've just been actually I did some writing this morning. I got up with the 5 a.m. group and I did some writing. And it was interesting to me because I was like trying to like mesh what we're doing now with what I'm writing. And usually my writing kind of informs some of my talk. So we'll get into that a little bit. So good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Morning. Good morning.
Welcome to this Sunday edition of Morning Glory. And I'm excited to kind of dive into this as we begin the second chapter of part one of Anatomy of the Spirit and just kind of talk about some stuff that's pressing on us. Good morning, Jerry.
Good morning.
I hula hooped this morning. uh,
Fun.
yeah. There's a guy that um I guess somebody post on all about all the hoopla, which is a hula hoop group, and this guy is always like jamming. And so this morning I was like, I get my hula hoop out and I started jamming. I was like, okay, sooner or later I'm gonna be able to dance and do all the fantastical stuff everybody else does while they hula hooping. But as of yet,
Wow. But that's
yeah.
fun. That's
Oh, I
fun.
love that.
That
Yeah,
is fun.
mhm. Oh, remember when I don't know if you did it when you were a kid, but it's like, you know,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
got the hula hoop.
Yours doesn't have the little beads in it?
No, I got a like a weighted one that I bought from Jerry that
Oh, okay.
really nice.
Okay.
Yeah, but now it doesn't have any beads in it. I'm glad it doesn't, but that was hot.
I remember that. Yeah, that was the sound. Yeah. Yes. 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 Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So so today let's pray us in and get started because I guess I'm in a reflective mode. So good morning.
Good morning.
So as we recognize God as the only power and presence there is, in all, through all, as all on this amazing day and every day, we recognize that God is right where you are. So as we recognize this connection, this connectedness, we know that the words, the thoughts, everything that is shared here is filled with the light, love, and wisdom to the highest. I open this space up knowing that it meets a need in our lives. We just give thanks for this time and we let it be. And so
Yes,
it is.
it is.
Ah, good. Oh, Jerry says she's in a slump. Yay.
Oh,
You know
okay.
what? It's interesting because I always think about when, especially like Stephanie is a therapist, right? But I'm going to say the way that I view stuff like that is that um like there are these moments of darkness that is necessary before the dawn comes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think about it in the sense of it being a gestation period. So even depression for me serves a purpose when I allow it to, you
Absolutely.
know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like it's like that gestation period where something is growing, you know? And then when you birth it, it's just like, ooh, so beautiful. And
Yeah,
so yeah.
I think where I
Well,
come into play as a therapist is when people can't, it's like you can be in a slump, but you're constantly grasping at old beliefs and old ideas that when you try to pull yourself up, you just kind of like you got Vaseline, you just slide back down. And it's like I can't pull myself up. And so then you're helping people with cognition and the stuff that we're talking when we're talking about in this book.
mhm.
Um, because it is, I think it's a cocoon moment where you're being crystallized and changed, even if it's little by little.
I was writing somewhere yesterday. I don't even know why I was writing it, but I said, when you find yourself in a hole, sometimes you just got to stop digging,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Um, because
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's like, sometimes it's just like, you keep digging and digging. And sometimes you just need to stop and breathe and give yourself a moment to think.
Yeah.
Um, one of the things that Barack Obama said in one of his writings or his memoirs is one of his regrets is that as president, he said his life was so fast paced that he lost the time where he could just sit and think.
Yeah.
And a lot of inventors, a lot of the most famous people out there, always allow themselves that space and that time to just have those moments where they just stop and think,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
And so I think we've got to give ourselves permission. The way we use busyness now as a currency, like,
Mm.
oh, I'm so busy. We always say that, whether we're busy or not. Oh, I'm so busy. Oh, I'm so, and it's almost like we get some kind of satisfaction or payoff from like trying to make ourselves so busy and so freaking important when we just need to learn how to just sit, just this one author, she was a minister that I read long time ago. She says, I don't call it meditation. She was like, what I do is not meditate. She says, I piddle.
Okay.
She said, piddling is an art to piddling. She was like, you just walk around the house and maybe you hum and maybe you go and you pick a leaf off of a plant that you see, and maybe you will just sit up and move stuff around. She says, but those are my moments where I do my inner deep reflection work. She says, I call it piddling.
Yes. It sounds like she's in the present moment,
Yeah,
picking a
yeah.
leaf, being aware and that's what meditation is. It's piddling, it's being in that moment, being intentional about whatever you're doing, I suppose.
Yeah, or just letting the mind wander where it'll wander, like you do when you're walking, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You're walking and your mind just, some people get in the shower and the mind just goes. And the awesome thing about that is that in those moments where we just let our mind flow, it's like we get to dream a bigger dream.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes what we do, I think we ratchet our stuff down. We keep ratcheting it. Like, no, that can't happen. And who says it can't happen? Or even, so this is, I got to tell you this, because I was writing about this today. There have been so many times in my life where um, I have been in situations where, let me back up. So I heard this sermon back when I was younger, and I think you mentioned it. So I think I've shared it before, this idea of thorns in the nest,
Mm-hmm.
that when a bird creates a nest, they make it big enough to fit those little couple of eggs in, and the chicks, once they hatch, once the thing hatches. But after a certain point, especially as the birds start to grow, that little nest becomes uncomfortable. And whereas before you may not have noticed all the thorns in the nest, as things change, as they grow, you start to feel the discomfort of it. And those, when you feel that discomfort is telling you that where you are is too small for you now.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Right.
it means that you move to the next stage. And a lot of times what we do is we don't move to the next stage. We have this idea that was put in our minds that we should do 20 years on a job, or that we should retire from something. We've had this idea about what it means to be stable or to sit still. And so you see people who sit in situations that no longer serve them, right? Because there's a fear that, I know what this nest is. I know how this nest feels. I know at least where the thorns are sticking out at.
Right. Right.
If I go outside of this, I don't know. And so, but life is not meant for us to be static.
Exactly.
So that discomfort, those headaches you get when you go on your job, or the discomfort or irritation that you feel, is telling you it's time to go.
Mm.
And and the wonderful thing about that is that the universe will support you. But half the time we don't support ourselves. Half the time our fear says, "Oh, stay put." You know what you used to. Stay put.
Mm-hmm.
Stick to and the streams that you're used to. Stay put. That's what it tells us.
Mm-hmm.
But man, that could sometimes be what's killing us.
Right.
So,
Mm.
yeah. So anyway, what you think?
You talking to me? I no, I absolutely agree. I don't have anything to add to that.
Oh,
Um, I don't have anything to add to that.
okay. Okay. So we are moving into this section called Made in the Image of God. Made in the Image of God. And I like it because she starts out this particular chapter talking about why she uses energy. And as you notice, I use a lot of words interchangeably to talk about God, to talk about life, to talk about any number of things. Because sometimes I think we make concepts so big that we can't wrap our minds around it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes even this notion of talking about God, if you can't, it's really hard to talk about it given some of the conditioning that we've had experiences that we've had, all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
So it becomes a kind of a nebulous term, if I could put it that way. So some people would like want to point and say, this is God, right? They want to point to a thing and say, this is God. But the moment you try to point to it, you miss it.
Yeah. And you limit it. You put it in a box.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
and so for me, when I use the different terms, it's because I know that if you're pointing to one thing, or if you're pointing to something, it's at the negation of something else.
Yes.
And that wouldn't be all encompassing, would it?
No. Yeah.
So
Right.
that's why when I'm talking, I try to use or try to keep it open, because it really is. It is all.
Oh, it's
It's
no
in
thing. It's everything.
all. Yes, yes, yes. So 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 that's why I say, sometimes if I want to say source, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
if I want to say energy, sometimes if I want to say spirit, sometimes if I, and so to take it out of those terms. And then here's the other thing. If you have had issues in the past with the father energy,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Because you got problems with your father in your life, or you got problems with the masculine energy. If you've got problems with the, you know, the way that people portrayed God before, with the wagging its finger at you and telling you thou shalt not, and
Right.
punishing you and all of that stuff. If you got issues with that, then you are going to have issues talking about this concept of God. So this kind of takes us beyond that. And so she was talking about how she talked about it as energy. But then when she turns around and starts to talk about it in breaking it down. So
Mm-hmm.
we talk about chakras, the parts of the body, which comes out of Eastern thought, I would say, Hinduism or Eastern thought. And then she said she juxtaposed that up against the
Element, sacraments,
uh,
holy sacraments, or isn't it
yeah, I would, is it
sacraments?
sacraments or sacraments?
Sacrament,
Sacraments,
sacrament.
however you say it. um, so she juxtaposed that,
Mm-hmm.
and with the Kabbalah,
Mm-hmm.
and which is the Jewish teachings. And
Mm-hmm.
so she said that really that there are seven principles that we're dealing with, and all of them have resonance and places within our body. So when it says that we are made in the image and likeness of God, that means that all of these things are in the body of God, and all of these things are in the body of you. I love
Yes.
that.
So it's so good.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So
good.
she said energy is a neutral word that evokes no religious association or deeply held fears about one's relationship to God. And so that was why she chose to use that one in the first place. So so it's interesting when like, I mean, there is a lot of stuff that we break down in tears like that, isn't it? It seems like different stuff that we kind of categorize. And so when she's going through this first thing, there Jean Houston. Jean Houston, maybe it was her that said the other day in the midst of one of her talks, is that she was talking to, I want to say Albert Einstein, because Jean Houston is that old and that connected. But she was saying that she was talking to him and she asked him, how do I develop my genius? How do I really, know what you know? How do
Right,
I
right.
really
Mm-hmm.
grasp this thing? And he says, start reading, what do you call them?
Fairy
Myths.
tales.
Yeah, fairy tales.
Fairy tale.
Yeah, start reading the fairy tales and then apply meaning to those, right? Because a lot of times what we do is that we think that a fairy tale is just about what we see or what they are saying. We don't ever break it down to the actual relationships. So we don't ever ask ourselves, or at least I didn't. This was one of my things that I used to fall back on. When did I feel like Cinderella?
Mm-hmm.
Or when did I feel like Sleeping Beauty? Or what are the implications of that in my life? At what times have I felt like Dorothy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Or any number of them. You could take every one and you can really break it down and look at the pieces, parts, and what the mission is,
Yeah.
what the what the journey is that we're being called on. What
And
does the seven dwarfs represent?
exactly. And the beauty of that exercise is the ability to be symbolic, which is chapter 1. When you practice or try to do that exercise or begin to look at a fairy tale from what does it mean for me and how do I apply it, it exercises your knower to begin to see life from a symbolic place, that
Mhm.
everything has meaning, the colors have meaning, they mean it. It causes you to question what's the significance of a yellow brick road as opposed to a red brick road. Like, what is the significance of yellow? It just, when you start to understand things from, and Einstein also said, the power of imagination. It's imagining. So, and then the imagining is symbolic too. So I think it's really cool that I love that and when Gene Houston has said that, and it's a perfect application to this, especially
Mhm.
for that beginning, being able to use that our symbolism is what speaks to our intuition. Oh, we probably just kind of get out of our heads and down into something bigger, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
something bigger than this, than the programming. You almost have to push outside of that. Yeah.
And one of the wonderful exercises I used to do with friends, especially when we were doing the prayer group, is that I would ask them to make up a story,
I love when you
right?
said
And I
that
just
before. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
just make up a story off of the
Yeah.
top of your head. And in the moment you make up that story, it's like you letting your mind imagine something, let it go.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I find that people have a hard time with making up a story. But then once you make up the story, then okay, every character in that story has a purpose and there's a plan and it's telling you something. But if we're not able to see our piece in it, there's so much that goes by, you know? So for me, it becomes, even when I pull out my tarot deck, or like you've got a
Mm-hmm.
deck of
Mm-hmm.
cards, you see the images that are there, but now what is this image trying to tell me?
Right.
What is what is it resonating to?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so at what times have I felt like the stepmother, or
Yes.
oh my gosh, right? Because sometimes we do feel like that we're playing that stepmother role. And when
Right.
you're in the stepmother role, why, right? What is this bringing up in you? Are you jealous of, of the people that are put in charge of you? Jealous of the attention, jealous of the love? Are you somehow upset about where you are? And sometimes we get like that,
Mm-hmm.
unbeknownst to us, because we're unhappy in our current situation.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than recognizing that we can do something, right, we can also make a choice about staying put where we are. Or we can say, that role doesn't fit me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Let me now switch to something else.
Yeah.
I tell you, I think that is really powerful when we do that. What's your favorite? I gotta go grab some water. What's your favorite
The Wizard,
fairy tale?
the Wizard of Oz.
I did not know you were gonna say that. I've done sermons on that.
Oh, Sandy, I hate when you do that. So I want to talk some notes that I took from chapter 2 that I'm going to just bring to the table is that Carolyn Miss mentioned that when we are not of the mindset that we have been made in the image and likeness of God, it is when our spirit is in a toxic place. And I thought that was super interesting to think of it as toxicity when we are not in an awareness that we are made in the image and likeness of God. So anything other than the reality that we are spirit beings puts our spirits become toxic.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was
now I remember reading that. Okay, yes, their spirit is toxic. And rather than saying that your energy is depleted, is that your spirit is toxic, right?
mm-hmm.
But depleted sounds like a better thing to hear, because when you hear, I used to tell people, girl, it's terrible, but I used to tell people like, oh, it's like you a toxic waste dump. Because people would, they put so many toxic things into their system or into their bodies. I don't think that they were recognizing what they were doing. And so sometimes me and my, and you know how I am, I'm just going to say what it is. I think it's like, oh, that's some toxic stuff that you're taking on there. And so not only do they have toxic thinking, they're then putting toxicity into their system without recognizing that too depletes them, right?
Yeah, taking their energy away.
Yes. And so we put our, so as within, so without. I'll leave it at that. I'm not even going to talk about all the stuff that makes us toxic. Anyway, so like if I look at some of the nursery rhymes or some of the fairy tales that we have heard over and over again, each one of them has a message for me. And so one of the things that she talks about here in her book is really just putting our lives into a symbolic language. And when we learn how to read the language of spirit, we learn it through doing the exercises like that are in fairy tales.
Right.
So whether I'm talking about the Matrix or the Wizard of Oz or Sleeping Beauty or any number of nursery rhymes that are out there, Cinderella, all of those things, you can put yourself in the different role and then ask yourself, or look at a story and ask yourself, what role could I be playing here? Like, even if you're looking at how people are responding to you, what's the role that you're playing there? And then the question becomes why. Right. So in the Matrix, who's playing Cypher? Who's playing Neo? Who's playing Morpheus? Who's playing the different roles that are there? What resonance does the drive have for me? If you're looking at Star Wars, who's Luke Skywalker? Who's the Yoda? What role are you
when
playing?
You're asking who? Oh, okay.
Yeah, what role are you playing? That becomes the question for each and every one of us. And then why? Right? And what do I need to do
what's the lesson?
In order to resonate on the Luke Skywalker role, right? What needs to change in my life? At what point am I resisting transformation, or at what stage of my life am I blocking the adventure, the good that might come out of it? Even if yeah, so whatever thing it becomes, how do I invest in that so that I can see myself and my life differently?
Right. Mhm.
Um, so
And that's a good word, the word investment, because the whole the seven chakras are all about reservoirs of deposited energy.
mhm.
So each one of them, we are putting energy in and allowing energy to be taken out.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So and so she says here on 64, she says the seven sacred truths that these traditions share lie in the core of our spiritual power. They instruct us how to direct the power or life force that runs through our system. In effect, we embody these truths in our seven power centers.
Mhm.
So they are part of the internal, physical, and spiritual guidance system. And at the same time, they are universal. External guidance system for our spiritual behavior and for the creation of our health. So tomorrow, what I'll do is I'll plan to put up a chart of the seven chakras so that you can see them and how they are in our body, because each one of them resonates to a different frequency. And once we get an idea about how they inform or what it is that they are symbolic of, right?
Mhm.
What thought forms and what illnesses they resonate towards, then we can see where it is that we may be stuck. Because
Right.
sometimes there is this sense of having an arrested development when it comes to moving through our chakras. So if a chakra is almost like a graduation system, you go from the base chakra to the second chakra to the third chakra to the, so each one of them seems as though it is a graduation in consciousness, right? And one informs the other without necessarily trying to overpower them, but all of them have a place.
Right.
All of them have something that is being resonated to. And so once you develop one area and sometimes feeling as if you've graduated, then you enliven another particular area.
Exactly.
So it'll be a little clearer if we put up a chart so you can
Okay.
see exactly how the energy moves through our body. And I think that it's important. There's a lot of people who talk about at one point talk about this idea of the Kundalini, and that becomes in Eastern art this
Mhm.
idea that this energy flows up through us. And and then there is an exit point that comes out through the top of your head. And oh my God, when you are in a place or a position where you're activating that type of energy, whew, it is amazing. Um, so she says here that our spiritual task of this lifetime is to learn to balance the energy of body and soul, of
Mhm.
thought and action, of physical and mental. And so this balancing comes in because one of the things that I recognize, and I don't know about anybody else, but one of the things that I recognize is that, like while I want to think for so many, especially in this country, we think that thoughts trump feelings, right?
Mhm.
We have this idea that because we associate the feminine with feelings and the masculine with thoughts. And so we want to make it seem as though one is more important than the other.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
it's getting to a place where you see a balance in that.
I
To
believe that too.
yeah,
Mhm.
to know
Mhm.
that our bodies inform us. Not that it needs to be subdued and ignored, but rather it informs the activities that we are to be about. And so we have to also recognize that our bodies are here for a purpose. They are a tool, and that tool, when we pay attention to it, can tell us places that in our minds we need to have addressed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yes. I'm like, that's so true.
yeah. So, so I mean, there are so many juicy things that I could chew on in this particular section, but let's see, let's see. So I want to let's switch over to page 66. So anyway, let me kind of switch up
Yes.
for a second. What do you want to thrash out in there?
Just when they were talking about, anyway, this is a page where I had a lot of points that I made for myself, but no notes. So I usually don't even um, expound upon things when they first initially hit me, because they just hit me. You know, when I read something, I'm like, yeah, I could feel that. But I haven't actually read back through it to figure out, like, how or whatever to articulate it. But there were a lot of things page that let me just, this is that second paragraph of the thread common to all spiritual myths is that human beings are compelled to merge our bodies with the sense of God, that we want to have the divine in our bones and blood and in our mental and emotional makeup. Um, in the belief system around the world, the concept of divine spiritual nature reflects the best human qualities and characteristics. Since our best, we are compassionate, then God must be compassionate. Since we are capable of forgiveness, then God must be forgiving. Since we are capable of love, then God must be love. Since we try to be just, divine justice must rule over our efforts to balance right and wrong. And then it talks about in the Eastern tradition, how justice is the law of karma, and in the Christian world, it underlies the golden rule. And the thing that I highlighted was, we have woven the divine one way or another into all aspects of our lives, and our thoughts and our actions. And why I thought what I thought about this when I read it is that is, let us make a man in our image, or we made in the image of God, but we weave God into our image.
Yeah. Yeah. So
That stood out for me, like, yeah, like, let me be forever mindful of that, you know?
I read this wonderful book called Jitterbug Perfume. And I forget what the guy's name is who wrote the book, but Jitterbug Perfume was powerful for me. I remember that Claire Freeman was the person who told me about reading Jitterbug Perfume. She was like, "Oh, you should read that book. The woman in there just reminds me of you." And so I read the book, and it was interesting because um, I kept trying to, when she said that the woman in there reminded her of me, I wanted to put myself into that role and see myself as she saw me, and or understand why she saw me in that book. But there was a particular line that stood out for me. There was a few. It was like this epic tale. And the guy who wrote it is like what I would call a wordsmith. He is just amazing with words. Let me see if I can pull up who the author is. But he's just amazing with words. And then at one point, he said something that was very profound to me. He said to the people who were talking about, at one point they had all these, his name is Tom Robbins, Jitterbug Perfume. If you are into just reading, just reading, and it's a pleasurable read. But he said in there at one point they were talking about there was one period of time where they went through and they had the various gods that roamed the earth. And they were talking about the god Pan. And if you will remember from mythology, Pan was half horse. He had the horse of a body and the torso of a man. And he represented everything having to do with hedonism, right? So whether it was lust or sex or music or drink, that was Pan. Pan was about pleasure. And at one time he roamed the earth and he was always surrounded by nymphs and nymphos and just all about the sexuality, the rawness of humanity. And so Pan for a while was just like this revered god, because those who just wanted to lose themselves to something were, just kind of pantheists, or, they got and at a certain point later on in the novel, in the book, Pan started to lose something because this dude named Jesus came on the scene. And so when Jesus came on the scene, Jesus started cleaning people up. And people started thinking that it was more important to be righteous than it was to be,
Pantheist.
out there. Right. I hate to use that word because then it makes pantheism sound so something different, right?
Right.
But yeah, so there was this dude named Jesus that showed up, and Jesus started cleaning up all of this stuff. And so people lost their lust, their zeal for getting lost in the senses, right? And so they were sitting up there and they were looking and they were like saying, "Oh, poor Pan," and the response that came was really interesting. He said, it says, "Don't wax yourself." And to wax means to put on extra layers, right? Don't think yourself so important that you need to have sympathy or feelings of sympathy for this God. He says people have gods because they need gods.
Mm.
And I thought, oh, what an interesting concept. The Course in Miracles says that we created God in our own image.
Yeah.
Right? And so when you think about us giving or imposing upon something these, just like the devil, right? We give the devil the attributes that we don't want to own within ourselves. But it's not the self that is separate from us that does the deeds. It is us who does the deeds, and then we blame it on something else. So that too becomes a godlike entity, because we think that the devil made us do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we project stuff onto those things.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a dynamic relationship that goes on between man and its perception of God. Even when we have this idea that something is taken away from us, we can't just say, oh, it happened because sometimes change is necessary, or it happened because of something else. We want to blame it. We want to, we want to put the blame centrally someplace else, rather than dealing with this and saying, I wonder what this has came to teach me or to show me, or what am I supposed to get from this? And so it becomes hard because we got to dig deep. We got to go deeper in order to find these truths, right? And so for each one of us, we have to recognize that we are not powerless in this scenario. We are not at in a victim stance and talking about woe is me because something has now come up or cropped up in our life. If it is in your life, it is there for a reason. You have to recognize that you are a co-creator. That means that you now are in a position where you have to make some choices that change your life. So let me delve into this text for just a second. It says here, today, many spiritual seekers are trying to infuse their daily lives with a heightened consciousness of the sacred, striving to act as if each of their attitudes expresses their spiritual essence. Such conscious living is an invocation, a request for personal spiritual authority. It represents a dismantling of old religious classic parent-child relationship to God and moves into a spiritual adulthood. I love that word, right? You move into a spiritual adulthood. Spiritual maturation includes not only developing the ability to interpret the deeper messages of sacred texts, but learning to read the spiritual language of the body. So it's not saying body bad, body I don't like you. It's not going through, it's saying, you know what, body, you are a teacher too. And a lot of times, even before I do, when
Yes.
something is amiss or something
Yes.
is wrong.
Mhm.
Let me be able to hear you. Let me understand not only what, because a lot of times we wait till we have an illness to even start looking, but before that even develops, let me develop a ability to hear what you're saying to me. When your energy is depleted, when you are feeling depressed or tired or something, your body is telling you something.
Mhm.
Being able to then ask it, sometimes we got to go region by region, right? Paying attention to even the parts of ourselves that we don't want to own in a minute for,
And those
in
are
the moment.
probably the parts that are screaming out, that are pulling, and it's kind of like a low battery that's trying to charge itself. Because, as you said, well, I don't want to jump ahead, but because the energies go up, the parts where we're ignoring are reaching like a plant as it grows. Wherever the sunlight is, it's going, and wherever the water is, the roots down below is reaching down to grab the nutrients from the water. So it's this, that what you are afraid to look at or not willing to look at is the part that's actually pulling forth energy from areas where you may need more energy, if I'm making any sense. The energy is always being pulled, so therefore the depletion is kind of like that alarm bell that's saying I'm having to pull from someplace else because I'm not willing to look at something else.
Yeah, but the other thing too about that is sometimes parts of our bodies go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If your sex organs, whether you're a man or a woman, right? If
Mm-hmm.
your sexual organs no longer have any kind of resonance, because you know what it feels like when when those things are alive and awake, they speak to you, right? And
Mm-hmm.
when all of a sudden that disappears, what is that saying?
Mm-hmm.
What are you ignoring that? When you're in a hospital, one of the things that they do is they come over with that stethoscope and they listen on your belly, right? Because they want to hear vowel sounds.
Mm-hmm.
That means this stuff is moving and working and doing what it's supposed to do in your body. If it's nothing moving, nothing circulating, we got a Houston, we got a problem, right? The same thing with different
Mm-hmm.
parts of your body. If there is not an aliveness and a resonance there, Houston, we got a problem.
Mm-hmm.
It is not, and a lot of times we want to, oh, I'm just gonna let that just, okay. Okay, you not pay attention, right? Don't pay attention. Don't pay attention. Yeah, saying that part of me that went to sleep. It ain't that. Okay. Actually, all right, all right, all right. I'm just saying. You can hear me or you cannot. I'm just saying. Everything on our body has a purpose.
Everything.
Everything.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, it has a purpose. And so we gotta start, even if it is we don't actually have to use it for the same things over and over again, but to ignore it. All right. So um as we become more conscious and recognize the impact of our thoughts and attitudes, our internal life, our internal life upon
Mm-hmm.
our physical bodies, huh? Did I
I just
mess
said,
up?
no, no, I said,
Okay.
mm-hmm.
Our internal life upon our physical bodies and external lives, we no longer need to conceive of an external parent God that creates for us and on whom we are dependent.
Independent.
So when you get that this thing called God,
Mm-hmm.
right, is operating in you and through you, you no longer need to go someplace else to find your messages, and your meaning is all given to you right where you are. This body of yours speaks a language, and if you can hear that language, my goodness, right? And
Yes.
so one of the things that I try to do with my ministry is to bring the messages home to you, right? Not talk about it in the sense of this is an experience that
Concept.
Abraham
Mm-hmm.
had, or this is an experience that David had, or I'm trying to put you in the story.
Mm.
Because the moment you put yourself in the story, you see the impact that it has on your life. It's not just about what happened in the past. It's not about those people then. This is about you right here and right now. This is your life. It's your story. And if you tell the book of you, right? If you tell, the book of Stephanie, or the book of Sandra, or the book of Jerry, or the book of Erica, or the book of, anybody else, if you start telling the book of Gretchen, right? If you start reading that book, all of this stuff that you were looking for, the message that you were trying to find is right there.
Absolutely.
I mean, gosh, this is what this is about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's about localizing God within you.
Yes.
Ah, man, he who has an ear, let him hear. So, as spiritual adults, we accept responsibility for co-creating our lives and our health. Now, this is so empowering for you, right? For whoever hears the message. Now, yes, we need to keep hearing, because sometimes it's the stories that enliven us. Sometimes we forget, because I
Yeah.
know, heaven knows that I have been in a state of forgetfulness before, right? When Jerry said that she was in a slump, that's a state of forgetfulness, right?
Exactly.
It's a
Mm-hmm.
it's a state where you have forgotten who you
Who
are.
you are.
So now
Mm-hmm.
all we're trying to do is just, wake it up, wake
Mm-hmm.
it up, so that we can see that everything that we need is right where we are. It is resonating to what it is that we need to hear.
And if I can pull something really out of context, so I'm just gonna own that I'm probably pulling it out of context. But being in the world and not of it. It's like this worldly experience. Yes, we're gonna have it, but remembering who we are pulls us out of the world. But when we kind of slump down into whatever it is that we decide, whatever causes us to have depression or whatever, when we submit to that, we are not in our highest thought of ourselves. And to me, that thought of being in the world but not of it is remembering that this is where we're doing what we do, but that there is something higher always in and at work in us, always, and trying to tune into it, and knowing that you have to sometimes be extra in tune to it, depending on where we are, arresting our thoughts and bringing ourselves back into alignment all the time, and being mindful, like you said, when the energy is a low energy, or I say in the world energy. Into it, depending on where we are, arresting our thoughts and bringing ourselves back into alignment.
Oh my gosh.
All the time.
This is like not muting. So I'm gonna tell y'all, I can't see the chat, so I was just kind of like trying to pull this up. So
I wonder what happened.
I don't know. My computer sometimes goes down in different ways. Okay, no, I don't think anybody has said anything, so that's good.
Okay.
So yeah, I think we have to be mindful about all of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yes. Yes. Okay. So not out of, and here's the thing, Stephanie, because this is not out of context. It becomes, one of the things I try to do when a thought hits me is to know and trust that it hit me for a particular reason.
Okay.
Now, so yeah, I'm trying to go in a particular order, only because I think that sometimes it's easier for us to get when we build foundations, but not necessarily. So yeah, don't even get sweat that stuff, right? So or no apology needed, or no something needed, but I do that too. As spiritual adults, we accept responsibility for co-creating our lives and our health. Right? Co-creation is in fact the essence of spiritual adulthood. It is the exercise of choice and the acceptance of our responsibility for those choices, or the denial of the responsibilities for those choices, because that too has a consequence.
Yeah.
Too has said something very powerful or disempowering according to how you take those things. Yes. So yes, absolutely. So managing your power of choice is the divine challenge, right? So at every moment, are you choosing to expand? Are you choosing to grow? Are you choosing to say yes to life? So many of us have things that I know that at times I have told people that it has felt like I had a foot in my back pushing me forward to something. Almost every time when I was supposed to grow, there was something that was telling me. I remember when I used to work at Randall Park Mall, I used to get these migraine headaches every time I walked in there. That was something those were the thorns in my nest that was telling me, girl, it's time to grow, time to let go. When I was working for the city of Cleveland, when it was time for me to go, it was like, grow, or you know, right? So when you are in those moments when there is something that is presenting itself for you, instead of trying to numb yourself with alcohol or with drugs or with TV or with video games or with sex. Sometimes that's what we do. You say sex? Okay. Yeah. You numb yourself through sex?
People use sex to numb themselves
as a distraction, but is that numbing or is that waking something up? I don't know.
I don't know.
If it's numbing you, I would stop. saying. I'm just saying, I don't know. But we distract ourselves with so many things and artificial stuff, right? We do that. And so instead of getting, it's like, let our lives come alive. Let our lives come alive through saying yes to the challenges that present themselves. Don't sit there and think, oh yeah, I couldn't possibly. Go, go, go.
Yes.
Now, I will say that I have met people who and I hate when I say this, but there are some people who I know have set up themselves for themselves some totally unrealistic stuff, right? And that unrealistic stuff sometimes means that they are doing things not because they feel guided to do them, but because somehow psychologically they are so caught up with what the numbers say and what this says and what that says, and they never get that agreement in their spirit. It becomes a thing of, I'm convincing myself that this will work.
Yes.
And usually that's based on ego stuff. But when you are following your bliss, when you are following what makes you happy, not what makes the most money or what looks good to people, but when you are following your bliss, that in itself pays off big time. Now, if nothing else, you can see, I think you can see, most people can see the joy that I get out of doing what I do, right?
Yes.
Out of, out of showing up and talking and hopefully making people see something differently. Hopefully people can see that and get that's me.
Yes.
So this is my joy. But if it was just all about something else, if I was out there doing stuff just because I thought people would think, oh, Sandra, if it was all about that other stuff, then I don't even know. It just, this becomes about living your truth and following your bliss, just like Joseph Campbell said. It's the adventure of things.
Yes.
So, yeah,
that's the signal, or like, how when you're trying to find a combination or a lot to know when you are in your bliss, like paying attention when you are in your bliss, so that it becomes more than just a moment, but it becomes an hour, 2 hours, or 24 hours, and then it becomes a lifestyle. But I don't know if we are always aware of the blissful moments when they're coming, or when they're there in that space. We don't keep them. We don't hold on to that. We don't make it a lifestyle.
Yeah, well, but it is one of those things where I think when you light upon it and you know that it gives you a certain amount of joy, I think you go back to it. I think it's something that calls you back. Yeah, I think it just keeps kind of saying, come, 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 come.
Rendezvous with me.
I know that for me, it showed up in my body as those abscesses. And when I read that it was because I wasn't giving up my milk, I needed to find for me what my milk was. And who's to say who knew that this would be my milk? Who knew? Who knew that this was milk? But once I discovered it, it's like, oh, that makes sense. It's something that's naturally welling up in me that feeds other people. What else is milk but that, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that was big. That was big when I allowed myself to see it in symbolic terms.
Yes.
That's what that is. That's a symbolic meaning of that particular thing. So when we talked about, was it the pancreas, and that pancreas resonating to the sweetness of life, right? symbolically, what does sweetness look like to a person?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that becomes how we do things, right? So managing our power, and I'm back on page 67 for a minute. Managing our power is a choice of the divine challenge, is the power of choice is the divine challenge, the sacred contract that we are here to fulfill. It begins with choosing what our thoughts and attitudes will be.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, did you know you could choose your thoughts and
Mm-hmm.
attitudes?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Most people think that they are just conditioned upon what's happening around them. I will tell you that sometimes you have to set your intentions that this is going to be a good day. It's going to
Yes.
be a good week. Everything that comes to me is coming to me for my good. And when I need it, it's going to see my smiling face because I'm up, my energy is up, I'm being lifted up. All things are working for my good. That is an attitude and an intention that you carry with you into the week.
Yes.
You get to decide.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. What are your thoughts and your attitudes going to be? I'm not a victim of this world.
Right.
Nobody can victimize me. You know what? I read someplace this woman said that if you feel like people are riding your back, she was like, stand up. Because they can't ride on your back unless you bent. So stop bending over for people to get on. Just, just stand up. Stand up straight. They can't ride on your back if you're standing up straight.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, we don't recognize that that is an attitudinal muscle that we have to exercise and we
Have
have to
to
carry
exercise.
forth. So, whereas choice, I'm reading again, whereas choice once meant our ability to respond to that which God created for
For
us,
us.
it now means that we participate in what we experience, that we co-create our physical bodies through the creative strength of our thoughts and emotions.
Yes. That's it.
Yes. So all of this stuff is all
Oh gosh.
recognizing the power that we have, the power of who you are. All of this becomes about that.
Mm-hmm.
So at a certain point, we have got to, stand up on our two big spiritual feet and make some choices about how it is that we are going to engage the world. And those choices and consistently making those choices over and over again begins to turn and shift our world in a way that we desire it to be. So what are you working on? That would be my question, right? What are you working on? What desires do you have? If you are just working on, that hole, if you feel like you're in a hole, the first thing is stop digging. Very first thing, stop digging. If you in a hole, stop digging. What does that mean? That means that when we dig a hole, it is sometimes we are digging by focusing on what's wrong, what's negative, why did this happen to me? Oh, I'm a victim, all of that stuff. That is part of a digging that gets you only deeper into the hole. Stop digging, right? If you need to stand still for a minute until you can learn how to climb out. I read this analogy of somebody threw this donkey down into a ditch, and
Yep.
they were so
That was
mad
really
at this
good.
darn donkey. Yeah, because it was just being stubborn and everything like that. So then it decided, okay, I'm just going to bury this sucker, right? And so they started throwing dirt down in the hole, shoveling dirt, throwing it down in the hole on that donkey. And you know what the donkey did? He just kept stepping on it, stepping on it, stepping on it, until all of a sudden, all of that dirt that was thrown on him now provided him with the platform, with the come up that he needed to come out.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what you can begin to do. You can begin to not allow that to fall on your back, but you got to shake it off. and keep on stepping so that you step out of whatever situation you are in. Do not get stuck, right? Do not get stuck. Do not think of yourself as a victim. Do not
Right.
go in that to that woe is me. Do not get stuck there. Stop digging. Stop digging. And many of us don't understand what that means. But if you are sitting there whining and crying and feeling powerless, then you're still digging.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got to start figuring out what that means. Well, how do I shake it off so that I can build on this? Right.
Right.
I will tell y'all, and I have learned to not be a victim person. When stuff comes to me, my question is not ever why me. It's why not me? Why not me? Who better to demonstrate some awesomeness through this experience? Who better to do that?
Right.
I'm looking at this like, whoa, God know what he was doing when she sent this to me. You know, because you give me some lens, I'm about to make some lemonade. I'm about to do something with this, right? So I don't need no new experiences though right now. Just so but yeah, because I got this book.
Yeah, you recognize your power.
I got stuff on my plate. Thank you very much. But why not?
Right.
Why
Right.
not?
Right.
Prove me now.
Right. Oh, I
Prove
like
me now.
that. Prove me now.
Yes.
I like that. Just landed on me. Thank you.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
good.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
So
that's good. Mhm.
yeah. And that's how we got to stand in it. You know, we got to stand up in it. And so I love those moments that cause us to stand and to know that I got this. I got this. God got me. I got this. I got this. All right, y'all. We gone over time. We got to get off of
This
here.
was good. I got yoga.
Yeah, I gotta get ready for my my thing today. My talk at 1:00. So I'm getting off of here, and so we will pick up tomorrow on this same thing. We will be here at about 7:15 ish, and we will have us the funky good time.
Thank you. I'm glad you're feeling better. You looking alive.
Good time. I'm gonna take it high. Isn't that good?
Yeah.
All right, I love this stuff, y'all. All right, so blessings.
All right.
I give thanks. I recognize that a shift has occurred and that all things are working for your good. So the light of God surrounds us, the love of God exposes us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever you are, God is, and all is well.
All right.
And
Thank
so,
you. See you later this
thank you.
afternoon.
All right. See
All right.
y'all. Have an
Bye.
amazing day.
You too. Thanks.
All right. So end. All right, y'all. I'm gone. I'm gone. Gone. I'm gone. I'm gone. I'm gone. I'm gone.